What's up? Welcome back to All for His Glory podcast. What I wanted to make this podcast about was the more of a backstory of where I come from with my testimony, because it's crazy how everything just ties into what's going on in my life right now too. I just really want you to understand where I come from. That way it could be something that you can relate to. Not only that, but you can have a greater understanding of where I come from. Growing up, I grew up Catholic, so I've always been a believer in God. I really held on to God for a lot of things that were going in my house because that's just how I grew up, right? And not only because my parents would tell me that I had to pray, I would do it, it would genuinely from my heart. I would always pray to the Lord. We wouldn't really go to church as much. I did grow up in a very toxic environment. I just gonna be very vulnerable and very transparent with what happened in my life, so it can be something that you are related, that you can relate to, or something that you are currently going through. You know what I mean? I grew up in a very toxic environment just because my dad is an alcoholic, and that in itself already will speak volume and the kind of things that we went through. It was just very toxic, and don't get me wrong, my dad is a very good person. He has a good heart, and the thing is, when you have addiction or you going through addiction, you start to open the door. You're opening the door to the enemy, right? When you open the door to sin, you most likely are hurting the people that are closest to you, that love you the most. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of my life. I'm just kidding. Not the story of my life, but it is like a big part of my life of how it impacted the person I am today. Growing up that way didn't really show me what true love is, or a love from a father figure. My dad is very loving. Don't get me wrong. He is. He's very loving when he wants to. Okay. He can be very loving, and that's what I know. Like, he is a very good person. He has a good heart. It's just those spirits, man, let me tell you, they take over you. It makes you lose your mind. It makes you do things that you genuinely don't want to do. And so that's why it's so important to have God as your foundation, so he can help you fight the battle, because he already won. After that, I got married to the man that I first fell in love with, right? To the man that I thought was great because he treated me better than my dad ever did. Or not better, I would say. I would just say, like, I thought it was healthy because there was no physical abuse or too much drinking. I was satisfied with that. I started to lose my morals as I started to lose my morals for this man that I love too. For example, I believed in waiting until marriage, right? I didn't understand it so much yet, of the importance of spiritually of why you need to do that. But at that time, like, my mom would always tell me, and I would listen to her, right? And I wanted to do that, but next thing you know, I didn't. Over time, I just lost my relationship with God just because I stopped praying. I stopped wanting to go to church. I stopped just building that relationship with him, and I started focusing on myself and in my life. And like, I was in school, I was a college student, so I was trying to get through school. If I wasn't in school, I was working. If I wasn't working, I was practicing for my dance competition, or like I was dancing at that time too. Or if I wasn't dancing, I was doing homework, studying for the class. I was so distracted. I stopped building my relationship with God. Over time, it did affect me, because throughout the years, I started to feel very unhappy with the marriage. I tried to make it work, but over time we just grew apart, and it became very toxic. There was adultery involved and cheating involved. So I thought it was just best if we went our separate ways. At that point, I had had it and I was done. And so I left. After I left, that's when a lot of like spiritual stuff started to happen in my life, where I started to see these numbers, and I started to correlate to being significant as like angels trying to communicate with me through that. And because I would Google it and that's what would come up, right? And I would believe it. And then I started getting into tarot cards. Like tarot cards started popping up on my feed, and I was like, oh wow, I relate to this so much. It's so relatable. Like, yes, I believe in this. And so I started to become very like in the new age spiritual. I started saging. I just started doing tarot cards. I would go to psychic readers, mediums. I did Reiki sessions. So I was like going really deep into that world. And next thing you know, I start to experience sleep paralysis a lot more. I start to sleep paralysis when like you can't move, but you see, you know, you're dreaming and you want to move and you can't move. Right? So there's this experience specifically that I would like to share with you. There was this one time, it's like so engraved in my brain because it was just like super crazy. Anyways, I was sleeping, right? And I could see myself sleeping in my dream. In my room is exactly how it is, right? I literally see my soul come out of my body and it's screaming. I was like, I was crying out for help. My soul was crying out for help. And I was trying to move and I couldn't move. Next thing you know, I wake up. I look at the time and it's 3:33. My music from my laptop starts turning on. And there was a water bottle on my desk, right? And the water bottle flew to the ground. Yeah, like if somebody went like, poof. And I was like, should I be scared, or was that my angels, or are my angels trying to talk to me? So at that time, I believed that it could be a good thing, you know. After that, I like threw away all my tarot cards because I had tarot cards too. And I also noticed that I just became so obsessed. I was so obsessed with wanting to know everything, literally everything. I wanted to know why this is happening, what's going to happen next. And it just became an obsession, and I knew it was very toxic. And so I just threw them away, and I'm like, not doing that. But I didn't really understand like the big problem in doing that, right? The new age stuff. It comes to you as if it's a good thing, right? That's what the enemy wants you to think, like, oh, you're good, you're healing, you're doing good. But in reality, you're just opening up another door. You're just putting a little band-aid, making you think that everything is good, but then let's attack somewhere else in your life, right? That's what it is, and that's what was happening in my life. And I started to notice that I was in this cycle. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm not getting better? Why do I feel like I'm just getting worse? And literally, it's just like after that, I just felt like my life just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was losing stability in my life. I was losing my mind. I was losing myself. At one point, like I lost the home where I was living at that time. And because of fear and not knowing what to do, like, or where to go, for 6 months, I didn't have a home. For 6 months, I was homeless and I didn't know where to go. And let me tell you, during that time, I was so lost, but I had so much faith and I was leaning on God. But as I was leaning on God, I was still like believing in astrology. I was still saging. I was still like doing like new age things. And it's like, you can't mix it. You can't. It's either that or that. You know what I mean? And at that time I was just mixing it. But during that time, God really was revealing to me slowly, right? Because during that time I was like, you know what, God right now, he's teaching me that he's my home, that God is my home. At that time he was teaching me to depend on God, and I was like slowly learning that, and he was slowly starting to open my eyes, right? Over time, it's like, so I get a new place to stay, right? After I was homeless. Mentally, I was losing myself still. Still felt like there was no stability in my life. I won't get so detailed in that, but I do just want to say that I was just lost. I was lost. Like, I didn't know what to do with my career. I didn't know what to do with my home or where to go, where to live. I didn't know. My finances was a wreck. Not, I wouldn't say like completely, because praise to the Lord, thanks to God, like I was able to get by. Throughout time, I was just lost, and I felt like I was in this cycle, and I felt like it was I know now for sure it's because I didn't have the foundation. I didn't know the morals. I didn't know the knowledge that I know now. And it's like, because of lack of knowledge, through the word, through the foundation that the Lord wants us to have, and we make our life harder than it should be, and it really shouldn't. Like, these rules and that God has for us are like, I wouldn't say rules even. I would just say these protections. I would call it protections, because that's what he's doing. He's just protecting us from what we could open, the doors that could be opened to the enemy for him to come in and try to destroy us and try to so we can lose our identity through Christ. And that's what was happening to me. I was losing my identity. And that's part of like where the second podcast, my first podcast comes in, of like me going into the field and going onto my knees and surrendering to the Lord, because that's literally what sin does to you. It's like, you don't even realize it. First of all, you don't even realize that you're probably in sin and that you're opening the door to the enemy, and you're starting to lose your identity and yourself, and you just don't know who you are anymore. And you want to be satisfied with just calling yourself a zodiac sign like Gemini. I was calling myself a Gemini, because I felt like I saw some sort of identity through there. And little do you know, you're agreeing with the enemy. That's literally what you're doing. But you know what? Through it all, I am just so grateful. I am so grateful that I'm going through the things that I'm going through, because now I can spread his light. I can spread the truth to people who can break free through this, so they can have a breakthrough too. Praise to the Most High. He has been delivering me. He has been delivering me from the pain that I was holding in my heart. And deep down inside, I would say that I forgave my dad, that I forgave the people that hurt me. Deep down inside, there was a part of me that still held on to that bitterness, because I would see it in the way I would react to things, or I would see it in the way how I would treat my dad, or how I would treat the people that were hurting me. And it's like, okay, have I really forgiven? I think it's very important to ask ourselves, did we really forgive in our heart? And I'm telling you, like, I understand that it can be hard, and like you can say to yourself, I forgive, but it's portraying in other areas in your life that say that you haven't, and we're only hurting ourselves. And there comes to a point where we just have to let all that pain go and release it to the Lord, and go on our knees and release it to the Lord, and say and speak directly to him all of our pain. Speaking to him and fully surrendering absolutely all of our worries, all of our fears and our pain on him, because that's why he died for us. He died. Every stripe that he took, we are free because of him. Every stripe he took, because of him, we are healed. His blood neutralizes our sins. He neutralizes the curses, the generational, the blood curses. As long as we surrender to him, we are good. We have nothing to worry about. I think it's so beautiful. Like, the stronger I get in my faith and the more I learn to trust him, the more free I feel. The more forgiving, the more loving I've been. And I don't get as frustrated anymore, because I understand that everything is happening for a higher purpose. And I know that I am slowly learning more, and I'm in right stand with God. I'm in an everlasting covenant with him. Like, after being baptized and just turning my life around completely. It's like this switch that happens. And it's so beautiful because even though I'm not exactly where I want to be in life just yet, I still feel this peace in my heart. And I still have so much love. And I am so grateful, and I've been growing my faith. I've been learning to grow my faith through him, and I'm starting to see who I am through him. I feel like that is like the most empowering and beautiful thing that has been happening in my life right now. And it's teaching me to have the foundation. So if a wind comes by, it ain't gonna knock me down. You know what I mean? If you have any worries in your life, ask God to show you. Ask God to show you the truth. And let me tell you, he will show you. He hears you. A friend of mine says, El que lo va a encontrar, lo va a encontrar. Pretty much saying like, if you want to seek him, you're going to find him. Continue to seek him and he will show you. He will. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for your patience with me. And thank you so much for just the support, the love, and just continue to stay prayed up. Stay prayed up. All right.